Hello and welcome to another episode of the Breakthrough Podcast. I am your host, Kwame Kuadey, and today I have a very exciting topic about business plans. But before I get any further, if you are new to my podcast, if you are new to my YouTube channel, I will urge you to subscribe so that whenever I release a new episode of my podcast, you'll be the first to know. So, what is the topic for today? Well, this is something that I have held an opinion on for a very long time. I probably have a video or something somewhere or an article speaking about this topic. So, what is it? Well, here it is. I think business plans are a complete waste of time. If you're about to start a business, do not spend countless hours writing a business plan. What you need to do is actually go and do customer discovery. That will be your time well spent on something that is going to directly help you make a decision about this idea, the viability of this idea that you're trying to pursue, rather than spending a lot of time writing a document that is going to be obsolete within a short period of time. So, what gives me credibility to even make this bold statement? Well, three reasons. Number one, I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. I've started several successful companies. One of them I started on Shark Tank. And I know what it takes to take an idea from nothing to something. Number two, I have failed a lot. I have started several businesses that have failed. And so I know what you need to do. And the most important thing you need to focus on when you start a business, and a business plan is not one of them. Number three, I teach entrepreneurship at a prestigious university. Actually, I teach MBA students entrepreneurial finance, and the course that I teach is called Entrepreneurial Finance and the Finance of Innovation. So I understand the entrepreneurial ecosystem and what it takes to finance innovation. And I'm telling you that if you're starting a business, spending your time on a business plan is not one of them. And I may add number four, I have coached a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of startup entrepreneurs who have gone on to achieve amazing success. And this customer discovery process is a key ingredient. I actually taught a 10-member class at a local college using the same principles of helping them get these ideas that they have and be able to turn them into viable businesses. So let's talk about three things. Number one, is there a situation where a business plan is necessary? Yes, and I'm going to address that. But before my students who may be watching this video come at me with, hey, you said a business plan is irrelevant, but you make us do it in class anyway, let me address that. In an academic settings, whether you're in, undergraduate or graduate school, in an academic settings, a business plan is an important exercise for students to go through. Why? Because it teaches you the questions that you need to ask if you're going to go and start a business. If you have an idea and you want to pursue, and actually, to be open and honest with you, my first business that I took on Shark Tank, I actually started it during graduate school when I was getting my MBA. It was a school project that I did, and then I answered the questions and did the customer discovery work and found out there was a market for it, and that's how I started the business. So that's a whole other podcast. But what I wanted to say is that when you're in an academic environment, a business plan and putting one together is a good exercise because the core of it is you're asking the right questions that any business person who is about to embark on that journey need to be asking themselves anyway. So what is the components of a business plan as we know it? One, you're going to talk about the addressable market. Is there even a market to create a multi-million-dollar business out of this? So when you are doing a business plan, you're going to go survey the market to be able to see and get data from various sources and see, is there a big market for this pain point I'm trying to address? Number two, this idea that you have, Is it even addressing a pain point that people feel is critical enough that they are willing to pay you the money you are charging in order for this business to work for you? Another thing that we address in a business plan in an academic setting is the value proposition. What is the differentiator? What is this service or product you're working on? What differentiates it from everything else in the market? And some people will tell you, oh, there's no competition in the market. Anytime an entrepreneur tells you that there is no competition or no competitors in the market, that's a red flag, because there's rarely anything new under the sun. Most ideas are an improvement, a variation, or betterment of something that already exists. Very rarely do we have brand new innovative ideas, except probably in the sciences, medical field, medical devices, medical sciences, yes. But mom and pop, everyday startups, there's nothing really new under the sun. So who are the competitors in the market? So you go and look at the competition, see what they're doing. How does your product or service differentiate you from the competition? Why is it better? Why should people leave the competition and come to you? That is another question you'll be addressing. And then, what is your marketing plan? How are you going to market this? What channels are you going to use to market this? How about sales? How are you going to acquire your customers? So sales and marketing becomes an important exercise to think through. Financials, which is big. So when I'm working with MBA students, yes, if you're a business school student and you, especially when you're going to a top university, you better come out of there knowing financial statements in and out. So that is something that is expected of you when you go to the workforce. So as part of the business plan exercise, we also teach you how to unpack financial statements, income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow. And so that you go into the business world, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, understanding the basics of business finances. And then projections. We want to see, what is your revenue projection over the next 5 years? What are the assumptions behind those projections? Because when you're doing revenue projections, you have to link an input into an output. So this amount of sales call is going to use this amount of customers. This amount of customers, we're going to then, if we put a lot of money behind this predictable model that we have, we know if we make 100 sales calls, we're going to land 5 customers. So if we want to get 100 customers, how many calls do we have to make? So your financial projections need to reflect some logic. But all this is an academic exercise. And then lastly, profitability. Based on the model that you've created, based on your customer acquisition cost, based on your sales model and how you're going to acquire these customers, based on this predictable model that you've created of how you think your sales input is going to yield customer output, how can you make projections into the future? And when do you think your business is going to be profitable? How long is that going to take? What are some of the costs that are going to come in the beginning that are going to drive this growth to get you to profitability? Those are the questions we're trying to answer in an academic environment. Now, are there opportunities where a business plan is actually useful? Well, I can think of 2 scenarios. The first one is when you're trying to raise money for your startup. And even then, if you're going in front of VC or angel investors, they're probably going to look at your summary sheet first. It's a 1-pager. When they read that 1-pager, then if they're interested, they'll say, okay, let me see what is behind that. But when you're going before an angel investor or a VC, you've already gained traction. Your business is getting hopefully some revenue. Or you have potential for revenue that you need money to finance. So you actually know what you're doing at that stage, and you need money to push you further. You're not brand new. It's not just an idea that you haven't even tested in the marketplace. So the one scenario where you would need a business plan is when you're going to go raise money, but you're already on your way. And before even they look at that thick document, which half of them don't believe anyway, and I'll tell you why, Before they look at that thick document, they're going to look at a summary sheet. And if it doesn't tell them what they need to know, they're not going to read that document because everything should be able to be put in that one pager. So that's one scenario. Number two, some people seem to believe that you can go to a bank and get a business loan. So they spend a lot of time working on a business plan, on an idea where they're going to go to the bank and get a loan to start a business. Let me break it to you. Banks are not in the business of financing startup, especially startup ideas. If a bank is going to take a chance on your business, they want to see some revenue. They want to see traction. They want to see that you're actually on a trajectory. Banks do not risk their money on startup ideas. I mean, I have never heard of that before. I have never heard a traditional bank, somebody walking into a bank, giving them a stash of documents, say, this is my business plan, this is my idea, and the bank say, here you go. No, they don't do that. Banks are not just in that kind of risk. They don't take that kind of risk. They want to see you well on your way before they will raise their capital on your business. Now, there are certain situations where banks may give you money, but it's not a money that they are trying to get a return on. Some banks have community development funds where they are trying to help impact positively the community that they are in. So they may allocate a pot of money to give to startups. So yes, they may give you a little money, but they are not hoping to get that money back. But for a traditional bank that is trying to loan deposits that they have received and turn them into business loans, they're not going to spend it on an idea on a piece of paper. They want to see that you are actually out there doing the business and you've gotten some traction. So those are the two scenarios where I think a business plan is necessary. But remember, at this point, you are way well on your way. So why do I think that startup entrepreneurs should not waste their times on the business plan? Because for two reasons. Number one, by the time you finish writing that business plan and you go out there and start your business, that business plan is already obsolete. Because when you go out to the field and start actually testing your business idea, you realize how much of a folly that exercise you went through has been, because everything you're going to learn out there is going to show you that every assumption that you had about the market is wrong. And so your entire business plan is wrong. So why put the time into something you're writing that you don't even know and fully understand? So that's one reason why, if you have an idea, it's not worth writing a business plan. Number two, Colin Powell has this saying that, every battle plan is good until, it meets the enemy. And I think Mike Tyson has a version of that saying, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, if you're an entrepreneur, the customer is the one that decides whether you have an idea or not. So if you haven't gone out there and done your customer discovery work and your research in understanding who your customer is, whether they want your product or service or not, writing a business plan is a waste of time. Go talk to the customer. So that is a good segue of why I think that customer discovery work is more important than spending your time writing a business plan. So what is customer discovery? Well, customer discovery is going out there, getting out of your computer environment and going out there and talking to the real people that you think are your potential customers and understanding their pain points and trying to see if the pain that you're trying to address, is it that much of a priority to them? And more importantly, is it so painful that they're willing to get a solution right now? And are they willing to pay the price that you think you want to charge that is going to make this business enterprise viable for you? So the first thing is, in customer discovery, is you're not going there to lead the witness. Every business exists to solve a problem in the marketplace. So you're not going out there to say, I have created a solution and I'm looking for a market. You're actually going to the market to understand what are their problems, what are their top problems, and is the thing that you are thinking about doing, the problem that you are thinking about solving, is it one of the top problems that the marketplace has? So when you go into customer discovery, you are going to go with a curious mindset, an open mind to understand the customer and their present needs. So how do you do that? Let me give you an example. I'm going to use an example to walk you through how to do proper customer discovery work. So let's say, for example, you are a dog owner. You have a dog that you discovered can only eat gluten-free food. So you've gone through this pain of, the dog is getting sick all the time. You've tried everything and you finally landed like, you know what? You give the dog some gluten-free food and realize that, whoa, it solved the problem. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, light bulb, I have a business idea. I am going to create a company to manufacture gluten-free food for dogs. Well, before you go there, you need to do customer discovery work. And so when I mean not leading the witness, you're not going to go out there and tell people, would you buy gluten-free food for your dog? That's the wrong question to ask. You want to go and understand whether dog owners also have this gluten-free issue with their dogs. Like, are their dogs reacting to the current dog foods in the market? And are they getting a reaction where gluten is the problem and gluten-free food is the solution? And how you're going to do that is you're going to go to, let's say, Petco, stand outside Petco and want PetSmart, whatever, and want to talk to dog owners. So you're going to have your piece of paper and say, hey, I'm doing a research about dog nutrition, and I want to understand what are some of the challenges you're facing feeding your dog. What are some of the issues that your dog is experiencing with nutrition? You see, the questions I'm asking is open-ended for them to answer and tell me the challenges they're facing feeding their dog and the experiences they're having, with the current dog nutrition, dog food in the market. And if during that process you talk to 20 to 50 people, you start hearing irritation, or the same symptoms that your dog was having, maybe vomiting or this or this or this or that, and you're seeing a pattern that this is something that they are also experiencing, maybe you want to find out what dog food are they feeding the dogs that's giving them the reaction and see if it's a similar food that you are using. And then you want to then can follow up and ask them, if the symptoms are the same, have you tried gluten-free food? At that point, you may get those customers or those people that you're talking to, get their information, maybe tell them, hey, I tried gluten-free food and it worked. Maybe you should try it and follow up with them. But here you are in a discovery phase. It may not be the solution, but you want to ask those open-ended questions and get enough people to say and validate that, yes, their dogs are also experiencing the same issue. And it may be something that's changing the environment. We're experiencing a lot of issues, extreme weather, whatever it is in your local area, it may be causing a problem, or nationally, who knows? But the point is that you want to see through your research that they are also having these kinds of problems, symptoms that your dog is having, and that gluten is the problem. So once you are able to do that and you see that enough people have the problem, then you can start introducing your solution and say, hey, now that we can all agree that it's gluten, if I create a gluten-free food, would you be willing to buy it? What should be included in that food that will make your dog feel good? Or if they were to design the food themselves, what would they put in it? And when you ask the question that way, they will start telling you other problems that they want to solve with dog nutrition. So again, it's very important to go into this with an open mind of discovery, of curiosity, because you will learn so much. And sometimes when we set aside our own preconceived ideas and go with an open mind, you may discover a larger problem that you could solve that will blow your mind and take you even further than your original idea would have taken you. So, customer discovery is all about curiosity, about open mindedness, about not leading the witness, and also knowing that your idea may not be good for whatever reason. Enough people may not have that problem. It may just be your dog or your dog breed. So, if that is what you find out, well, then that's the end of the road. But during that discovery process, you may find out other problems that may be worth pursuing. But if you realize that nobody or very few people in your sample, that's why I want you to talk to about at least 20. But my preference is talk to 50 dog owners, because that's a big enough sample that you start to see a pattern. And if your idea or the symptoms or the things that your dog is experiencing is not one of them, then that's the end of the road for you. Because if that is not a pain point that the customer has, then you are creating a product that nobody wants or not a lot of people need. And if it's not a big pain point for them, they will not be willing to pay the price because they don't need that problem solved immediately. They may have more important problems about dog nutrition that they want solved. So the point here is, you can see how much we haven't talked about a business plan, because in this scenario, all you're trying to do to start a business is see if it's even a viable idea. And a business plan is not going to tell you that your idea is viable. The customer is the one that's going to tell you that your idea is viable. And the only way to find that out is to go out there and talk to the customer. So that's why a business plan is a waste of time, because it doesn't teach you anything to help you get started on the journey of validating your business idea. It's an exercise that, once complete, becomes obsolete as soon as you start talking to the customer. So I hope this helps somebody today. And if you do your customer discovery work and you find out that your idea is still good, then you go to the next step, which is creating what we call a minimum viable product, which is a version of the product or service with the bare minimum functionality or ingredients or whatever to go out there and start testing. You don't want to create a perfect product in the beginning, just something with the bare bones, bare minimum, so that people will get an idea of what you're trying to do and give you enough feedback to start tweaking and getting better until you arrive at something that people actually want and solves the problem that they have. But that's another podcast. Minimum viable product is a whole podcast episode, and I can walk you through the steps on what to do there. But today, I hope that this podcast episode has helped you understand why business plans are not worth your time if you're just trying to validate your idea to start the business. And I've also explained the two scenarios where I think it may be worth it. You know, if you're going to a bank and you have traction and you want to get a loan, or if you're going to go raise money from institutional investors and you need to put a document together. But under those two scenarios, you are well on your way with your business already. You validated your idea, you have traction, so it makes sense to take some time and create a business plan, because now you know what you're talking about and you can create a document that people actually can read and it makes sense to them based on information that you actually know about the business. So that is today's episode. I hope it's helpful to you. And before I close, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so that when I release new episodes, you'll be the first to know. So until the next time, know this: you can do hard things, so keep pushing forward.